Welcome back to the studio. Today we're going to be talking about the components of using a ruler work while using the Longarm. Now, I don't have a setup of a sit-down Longarm machine, but I do have the Q24, so I'm just going to go over the components that are necessary for doing ruler work on my machine. Most machines have the same types of components, although they may look a little bit different. It's a three-part system, the same way that rotary cutting is a three-part system. With a rotary cutter, you need a rotary cutter, a self-healing mat, and a specific ruler that's designed to do cutting with the ruler. The lines are very clear. Usually it has a little bit of a non-slip, and also it's thick enough that the blade of the rotary cutter won't cut through the ruler. In the same regard, the ruler work on a machine is the same. The three components that you need are an extended base for the throat of your machine that will accommodate the ruler that you're working on. It gives you a nice stable platform for the ruler to work while making sure that it doesn't tilt up or down, allowing it to get caught between the needle and the foot that you have attached to your machine. So you need the ruler base, you need specific rulers that were designed for this use. These are thicker than a rotary cutting ruler. This particular couple here are from Quilters Apothecary, and these have a handle on them that are meant to be ergonomic. So you'd have specific rulers, and also there are specific feet that go with the ruler that allow the ruler to go up against the foot without going underneath the foot. Also, it allows it to go at exactly a 1/4 inch away, which is how we gauge our work when we're doing the ruler work. This is a bowl foot, and this would not work with the ruler because it's too far away. Also, this would allow the ruler to slip underneath the foot while the machine was in operation. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer so you can see these three things. This is my base, my ruler base that will snap onto the machine, and I'll show you how that snaps in place. This accommodates the ruler and gives it a firm base to work on when the quilt is loaded on the machine. These are two examples of specific rulers that will work for a stitch in the ditch. You can find a wide variety of designs for doing different types of ruler work, but today I wanted to talk specifically about stitch in the ditch. So these are two rulers that are designed for that type of work. This is a rotary cutting ruler, and this ruler is at least half as thin as this. So this is for cutting. This is way too thin for using for long arm work. The hopping foot is not high enough. This could get slipped under the hopping foot. So this is not suitable for doing long arm work, stitch in the ditch. You also have different feet for doing ruler work. These have a much higher side profile so that they work with the height of the ruler. These are just two versions of the same thing. This is a gold plated one, and this is just a silver one. This is the regular bowl foot that I would use if I were doing a pantograph, edge to edge work, because it glides beautifully over the seams. But when you're doing ruler work, you have to use ruler work foot so that the ruler does not slip underneath the foot or get caught above it between the needle and the foot itself, causing damage to the needle and also possibly to your timing. So let me show you how this attaches to the machine. The first thing I'm going to do is put on my ruler work foot. I've taken off my bowl foot, and I'm going to go ahead and secure that and make sure that the attachment is tightly on its shank. And I'm going to ensure that that is in the up position. And then this has a post to support it in the back, but it also has these clamps which hold it. Actually, I think it's in the front. So it just slides on. It's kind of a little funny to get it on at first, but then it just snaps in place. To get it off, you just release the snap on one side, and then you can pivot it off. but this is what goes on before the quilt gets loaded. You can actually do this on the side of the quilt if you have enough room, but if I know I'm going to do ruler work, I usually put it on before I get started. And now that that's in place, I would go ahead and load the quilt, and you can see I have a much bigger base to support the ruler while I'm doing ruler work. And with the quilt in place, the foot is 1/4 inch away from the edge of the ruler. I have a nice firm base that I can apply pressure to the table itself and keep my ruler flat, because you never want the ruler to be at any kind of an angle. You never want it to go between the hopping foot and the needle, and you never want it to be able to slide underneath the hopping foot into the range of the needle, because that would also break the needle. It could break the ruler, sending shards of either metal or acrylic up in the air, and it could also knock the timing out on your machine. So it's a 3-part system for doing ruler work on the machine, and you must always use all 3 components. In the case of the Songbird's quilt that I have hanging on the front of my presentation table, the quilter used straight lines across the top of the quilt, and then when they got down to the piano keys, they used a stitch in the ditch process to go ahead and stitch out those components, so the piano keys really popped. Just an example for this one, when I get ready to quilt this, the 2 areas that have the blue background, I'm going to use a panto design there, but I'm going to stitch in the ditch in combination with that. I'm going to stitch in the ditch on the piano keys, and these are actual piano keys design, not the piano key pattern. I'm going to stitch in the ditch on those just so that the panto really pops out and I don't take away from the piano keys. So in this way, we're using a combination of 2 different techniques on the same quilt, but primarily this is about the 3 components of the ruler work. And again, those 3 components are a specific ruler for ruler work, ruler base made for your machine, and the specific foot for doing ruler work for your machine also. Those are the 3 components, and if you use all 3 components, you're much more likely to provide safety and protection for yourself, as well as doing quality work on your quilt.